the Creative Arts from India in collaboration with Testimony Arts of Australia announced the Indo-Pacific launch of 𝐀𝐫𝐭𝐬, The Arts, The Artists and the Times 2022 in the presence of honorary guests such as Rowan Ainsworth, Consul General, Australian Consulate in Kolkata and Sayan Bhattacharya, Education Officer, Indian Museum. The event was moderated by Anjum Katyal, editor, author and festival director. The event was also graced by other notable personalities from various walks of life such as Pradeep Khemka the Hon, CG, Debanjan Chakravarti, Director of British Council, East, Namit Bajoria, Director of Kutchina and Honorary Consul General of Macedonia, Reena, Dewan, Director of KCC, and others.
I'll just see a short introductory video from Pippa Dixon from AsiaLink, who wanted to join tonight as well, and she was it had two commitments, so she's done a short piece just to give her encouragement and thanks for being here tonight. So when we're ready, if we could share that, please, that would be great. And then we're going to move to Deborah and Lena to show some of their work. Thank you.
Trying the best we can to continue to work together to see where we can amplify and accelerate collaboration, cooperation and conversation, frankly, between our countries. I'm really excited about what you're doing here and the value that this program is going to bring, because it's not just talk. It's not just talk fest, as some people say. This is where ideas are born. This is where innovations and new concepts are delivered in the future. So I'm of Asian Arts at the University of Melbourne. It's my pleasure to be joining you from Wurundjeri, Wurrung and Boonwurrung country in Naarm, Kulin Nation, otherwise known as Melbourne. I would just love to say thank you so much to Tammy and Ramanjit for instigating and initiating this terrific program. It's always very urgent to pursue and progress bilateral and multilateral dialogues across our region. It's even more important right now, in my mind, given the impacts of the last couple of years with the COVID-19 pandemic. There have been some very committed people to...
Deborah, that would be wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
Next. Thanks for that. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to... it's just the tiredness. Anyway, I won't get into that. But I'm just going to talk a little bit about my work. I'm a performance maker, make very visual, physical work, whether I work with text or no text. And my work is always about looking at contemporary issues, gender, and responding using the languages and different languages of performance, whether it be visual media or sound. It's all part of my language. And I have a company called Kutchina, which is the umbrella for all my work, including international collaborations and workshops, which is where I first met Tammy, which was as part of one of those workshops she came to. It was really wonderful up in Darwin. I just want to show you a little bit of a piece I did. I think this might be quite a good example just in a short time. It's a work I directed called Unhoused, where I worked with an ensemble of older ex-homeless women, and we worked over 1 year and trying to use the languages of theatre, of performance, to give the audiences having the media of film. So during COVID, so we use that. Actually, I feel very fortunate that we had that level of film, because now, post-COVID, we have, because they themselves can't tour so well, so hopefully,
steadfastness, a love without belief. My life will be unbelievable.
As my mode of creative medium, and I love capturing cities, spaces, people in their spaces, portraits of cities, the socio-economic of what makes a city, and I've done extensive work on Calcutta, which is all compiled in my book on Calcutta. But something really happened when I was doing this book on Calcutta. It took me to a red light district, and it was a moment which never left me. And in fact, my image in Kalighat is the image of my book, and I think I should have known what's going to come in the future, because when I did the book, I had no idea that I would be going in deeper in an issue which is so close to my heart, and that's the issue of child sex trafficking. So slowly over the years after that, I mean, I know I'm not talking pre-COVID, post-COVID, because I feel COVID is just another phenomena which has happened, and there are so many social issues which we all are tugging on, and my journey and where I am today started then. And I'm just going to say what I did in COVID after that. So after the book, I realized like the issue of sex trafficking was really huge in my mental setup, and I was creating these whole room full of really complicated installations which were traveling the world. It was here in the Birla Academy, a 2-story show in Calcutta. It went to Delhi as in tropic sites, to Azadi Gallery, Tehran, as I saw that which remained unseen. It went to Berlin, it went to Austria. And all the while when this installations were getting more and more complicated, I realized that my main public whom I wanted to speak to and who I wanted to address this really a stat which nobody should ignore is that 200 children go missing every day in India and 680 women. I set out to do a public arts project. And so this happened in about 2013 autumn. I went to the SPA. I really tried to sink into what is a good public art and what makes a good public art. And I created the silhouette, which is like literally a distillation of all my complicated thoughts into a form. And it's black holes into which millions of girls disappear from the face of the earth. And it's the missing girl silhouette, which I launched. We got launched at the India Art Fair. And of course, the public-private partnership is very complicated, especially in India. So eventually, it did really well, and we have it. We did the Bengali version, which hit top of the charts in Bangladesh within a week of its launch. So I'm very happy to say that this tech art partnership has really served its purpose and is creating a bigger dent into the psyche of people. And it's taking us towards our goal of ending demand and engaging the public on the issue of sex trafficking. We have murals. We've also done the last mural on the German consulate wall in April. We repainted it. And all these murals have chatbots and apps which go over it. Under COVID, this is an issue which we are really facing with child sexual abuse material. So that's becoming my new goal and aim, where we are really engaging students on this issue. We have an intensive mix of audiovisual programs which we have created for students, and the program has actually rolled out in Sundarbans in West Bengal, and we've reached about 4,000 students systematically and soon across the country, because we have a web portal, we have WhatsApp chatbots, so the use of tech is immense, and at the same time it's all connected to the arts and the audiovisual media, and we engage a lot with communities. And there's lots to do. I'd love to see more collaborations happening here with fellow artists and really take the project to greater heights. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reena.
Because you've supported us for so many years, if you could come on stage, and we would really like
What I wanted to say was, way back about 15 years ago, when I was involved with a lot of cultural work at the Goethe Institute, Macedonia, we did a conference, which was a 3-day conference with the United Nations, and that was called the Concept of Development and Progress. Does culture play a role? And during these 3 days, there were a lot of deliberations from people from all over the world, and the conclusion was that culture not only plays a role, but culture is an absolute necessity if a civilization has to progress and develop in the right direction. And to that extent, I think arts has not only got to be alive, but has got to be alive and kicking all the time. Otherwise, the consciousness of people, which takes a back seat when other things come to the fore, as we are facing in today's world, much more nearer ourselves than further from us, then in such kind of situations, art has to make its presence felt, to act as a balancing factor, to drive sense and sanity into people who otherwise get carried away by certain temporary and momentary obsessions. So this is what I feel, and to that extent I think this is a great, great honor.
Thank you so much. If I may please ask...
I just wanted to say how inspirational this afternoon has been. It's not easy to pull me away on a Saturday when there's Wimbledon on telly and India is playing a very critical test match with England. So those of you who know me how difficult that is, but I'm here because of the fantastic initiative. And of course, Ramanjit, I've watched the growth of creative arts from up close, and it's been phenomenal, the work that you have done. I also thank the Australian government, Rowan. It's been, this kind of work is not easy to pull off in this day. I mean, like you, I work in the cultural diplomacy space, so I know how difficult this is. All the very best for this. From the British Council, I think we need to join some of the dots in terms of documentation and research. We have been doing some of it ourselves. There are 2 research reports which are, I think, relevant, which I'll be very happy to share with the project. One is taking the temperature report, which through 3 phases we have tracked the impact of COVID-19 on the arts, crafts and the creative economy sector across India. And there's been a huge loss of livelihood, not just lives, but livelihoods as well. The other report, of course, is slightly different, but again, a good index for mapping what happens next is the creative economy mapping of Durga Puja 2019, based on which it's one of the reasons why Kolkata's Durga Puja.
Council, Indu and Anuradha and many members are here from that. So thank you for coming up as collaborators. I thank all our special guests. A couple of them had to go because we started late. So Pradeep Khemka, Sangeeta and Namit Bajoria, I saw them moving out, even Raju Barmanda. But we have some very special guests here. May I request Mr. G.M. Kapoor from INTEC, and INTEC does amazing work on conservation and archives and a lot of documentation. So we would be very happy to hear from you. What do you think of the series? Sir, it would be nice if we could actually come here so that Zoom people can see, if you don't mind. I know it's a little too much to ask, but the complexities of offline and online will give him this mic. And in the meantime, may I request Tenas to kindly come in so that she can take the mic to the special guest.
Thank you very much. I am totally unprepared for this, but I must say that I think what I heard and what Anjum started with, especially the documentation and archiving, which is one of our major thrust areas in INTACT. We always believe that if we do not know what we have, there's no way that we can protect it. So I think it's a great initiative which I think Ramanjit, you have started, and if there's any way we can help to support, we would be happy to do it. And we try to support such initiatives all over, especially in tangible and intangible heritage. And if there's something we can do, as I said, we'll be happy to help. Thank you so much, and I'm honored to be here on stage actually.
Thank you, dear.
Unfortunately, it's really a great joy for the country and the nation that the artists did that. What is your opinion, what is your feeling with this kind of event?
Yes, as I mentioned, I feel that the arts sector, particularly the creative arts sector, was really hard hit by COVID. They've been one of the most knocked about, with everything closed down, lockdowns. It was very difficult, and I think it's really, really a useful tool that has been created here today for all artists around the world to look at, through this series of speakers, to look at how they weathered that storm, how COVID affected everybody, how it affected the arts sector, and what we can do to change the way that we operate, or that the arts sector operates, and look at also just what the different journeys were that all the different artists and the curators and the supporters, what journey they took through COVID and what destination they arrived at the end, how they ended up. So I think as well as
still more than 6 months of happy, peaceful life again. We are still with
the mask. I know, we're back into masks again.
Also.
So I think we have to allow that COVID is not over. But I think the way that governments have approached COVID through lockdowns seems to have changed. Of course, we can never tell what's going to happen next, but there seems to be a recognition that the importance of people's livelihoods is also important as well as people's health. So there has to be a way of addressing both of those issues. And it seems like the arts is in a better position now to weather the next COVID wave and the one after that.
What kind of art, culture and relations between Australia and India on this COVID pandemic and the post-COVID scenario?
So Ramanjit, who's disappeared now, but Ramanjit is one of our alumna. She has studied in Australia, in arts in Australia, and she's one of the living bridges between our countries, and we love to support that kind of work for Indian students to come and study in Australia, Australian students to come and study here, form those living connections and then take their work forward for both countries. And this is a really good example of that, working with Tammy together on the Australian side, Ramanjit on the Indian side, to create something that's really special.
In the post-COVID scenario,
yes.
There has been a rise of the hybrid situation, where we can see the physical as well as the digital, what we have witnessed today.
As we saw today.
So what would be the rehabilitation scheme for the livelihood of people, those who are not well versed with this media? Are you going to do anything?
I think people are becoming more and more familiar with a hybrid scenario or with a virtual scenario. As we've gone through COVID, it's become more familiar, more accepted art, keeping that in mind. At the beginning, of course, it was very difficult. It wasn't really possible for artisans to do that, artists and artisans to do that. But now it's becoming more possible. But that's exactly what these speakers are going to discover through their discussions and their conversations with each other, and we'll all find out exactly how that is moving forward.
Yeah, and the borders are eclipsing in that fashion. So how far the Indian talents they are going to be very much getting exposure in the other parts of the globe?
Yes, well, obviously hybrid scenarios allow much greater interaction in a more limited way. So the interactions are not the same as interactions in person, but it's so much easier to interact with each other over great distances, for example, between Australia and India, with the use of technology, with the use of a hybrid format. So there's pluses and minuses, But there's definitely a lot of pluses in being able to work virtually, as we saw today. Notwithstanding technical difficulties, which always happen.
That
what
always
could you
happens.
do?
And for the marginal artists and artisans, those who are not exposed to this media, is there any way that the people in the upper ranks, they are going to extend their like virtual technology, all these things? How that can happen?
I'm sure that the Indian government is spreading technology to, further and further to far-flung areas of India every day. It's the same in Australia. Even very remote communities can really promote their art through technology these days. So things are changing.
Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.
And all the people at the Australian government back in Australia to fund this. Today was the launch at Indian Museum. I'm very grateful to Mr. Chaudhary, the director, and Sayan Mukherjee, who came forward, and we got support from Ministry of Culture. Through this support, we'll be able to again look at artists in the Indo-Pacific region, Australian, Indian, and throughout the world, to have conversations with each other and talk about what happened, what were the new innovations that we did, what were the interventions that we did, and so that this becomes an archive. There's an ebook that will be created, and there'll be the printed version, so that anytime any student, researcher, artist, practitioner wants to have a look at it, they can see and what happened during these times, and they can learn. So we are leaving something for the future generations through this intangible
Beyond the
heritage
newsletter.
archive.
Beyond the newsletter.
Yes, absolutely.
And we are living in the world beyond, or rather living in the world of pandemic. And we are quite used to the hybrid medium. So the marginalized artisans, they are not getting the benefit of the virtual media in that fashion. So is there any way to bridge the gap between them?
See, government has tried their best to take digitization to as many villages as they can, and hopefully the Arts Alive will also look into mapping the journey of so many artists who are living beyond the periphery of the big city. We are already having a lot of indigenous artists as part of this series, and we hope to have more and more inclusivity in the series. We have some artists who are with special needs also, and
Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you so much.
Could you please tell us about your goal, as well as what Arts Live is going to cater to the audience in greater India or global aspect?
I'm Ramanjit Kaur. I'm the founder director of the Creative Arts Kolkata and National Vice President of Women Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry Arts Leadership Council. When the pandemic happened, I realized that it was the arts world or the artists that were entertaining the whole world, whether it was Instagram, your television, web series, Doordarshan, YouTube, anything that you picked up, or even the WhatsApp, it is not good enough. It is just the technology doesn't work. But through WhatsApp, we were sending so many entertaining material. So that was something that was entertaining the whole world and keeping the sanity together. But what happened was that when the necessary commodities were being counted or taken in consideration, arts was considered as the unnecessary commodity by all the governments throughout the world, or I would say most of the governments. So that's when I thought it's important that the artists who were going out of work all over the world and still entertaining the whole world, they didn't have the means but they still continued their work, their journeys need to be mapped. So I conceived the Arts Alive series. It's inspired by the wonderful Anath Foundation series, Anath Foundation Virtual Batak series conceived by Baldeep Singh ji. The concept came from there that we must have artists from all over the world to share their creative journeys before, during and post pandemic. And that's how the idea came into being. We've already done 7 episodes. My guru Padma Shri Neelam Man Singh Chaudhary's journey was the first one. And then we had Bhai Baldeep Singh ji, his journey, students and artists that he had interviewed. Then we've had Mahesh Dattani, Ricardo Khan, Michael Walling, Chandra Dasan ji, Lisa Taylor-Renaud, Anita Ratnam, Dipankar Mukherjee and Kabir Singh Chowdhury. Now this is the launch of Indo-Pacific series. We've finally got a grant from the Australian government and Australian Consulate, Kolkata. So we are very, very grateful.
Here is an opportunity for all creative performers to showcase their talent by promoting their new CD or YouTube releases and booking a live slot in our digital platform, Quarantine TV or QTV Live channel.
QTV Live is a platform for home-to-home streaming of content by artists, performers, professionals, educators, entrepreneurs, social influencers, authors and any organization seeking digital marketing and online event management.